Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Jewelers Academy podcast. I'm really excited to be joined today by my guest, Janine Friston. Janine is the founder of the Female Business Network and supports introverted and quietly confident women in business to be visible, build genuine relationships, and grow their businesses in ways that are aligned with them, which I know is something that a lot of our audience is really interested in. So, hi, Janine. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, and we're talking about a really interesting topic, I think, that I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of value from you. And that is top tips for growing your business and growing your visibility as a jeweler, but particularly for introverts, as the introverts around among us. And if you're not an introvert, I think any of these tips will also be really helpful for you. But we want to kind of talk to the introverts because a lot of times the creatives, not always, it's a stereotype, but we can be a little bit more introverted. We're used to working alone, and then suddenly we've got to get ourselves out there and get ourselves known. And it can be a little bit of a challenge, I think.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, like you said, the things we're going to go through are things that work for anyone in business. But I think if you are introverted or quieter, then hopefully it will give you a few different things to think about. And I think with being visible, it's about not thinking you've got to do everything and be everywhere. It's about choosing a couple of things that work for you, where your audience is, and what you can do consistently as well. That's really important.
I think that's a really good point because we've got a whole list of tips we want to give, but I think you're quite right. It's kind of around picking a couple of these. It's not about saying we want you to do all of these right now. They're great tips for you to take, but I think sometimes we need to take our first little step, don't we? And we need to just take on two of the things probably that we're talking about and just go for those to start with. And you can always come back to this episode and listen again. Um, can I just ask you, like, introversion is obviously a big part of your business. Is What is it about that for you? Would you call yourself an introvert yourself?
Yes, I would. And when I first started the Female Business Network, which is nearly 3 years ago now, I thought, well, I love networking. I've been hosting events since 2018 and working with women in business since 2018. And I thought, well, when I launched the Female Business Network, I thought I can just any woman in business, that's who I'm going to help. Let's all go networking together. Let's all grow our business together. And that's what I thought at the time. And then over the last sort of year to 18 months, as I got to know people that were coming along to my meetings, both online and in person, was that I was attracting more introverts to the style of networking that I host and what I'm known for, which is friendly, informal, conversational, about relationships and not about selling. Um, and I had a coach at the time, and they kept on saying to me, "You need to niche down. You need to niche down. You can't be everything for every woman in business." And um, I resisted it for quite a while. And then, sort of about 18 months ago, I thought, do you know what? I'm an introvert. For me, it is about I prefer the smaller spaces. I prefer small groups of people. I love working from home, which is great running your own business, and for your listeners as well. Working from home or in a studio setting or something like that. If you are an introvert or you're a quiet person, it feeds into that preference that you've got. But similarly, I do like to go out and talk to people. When I talk about things that I'm super passionate about, people think, "Oh, you can't be an introvert, Janine, because you'll just talk and talk and talk, or you'll go on podcasts. I host live events. I do lives in my group and in my social media profiles. But actually, introversion isn't necessarily about not being able to go live or not being able to attend events or something like that. For some people, that can be. But for me, it's around the energy and the space that I need after those events, and during sometimes. So, when I host my own online events, I host them normally in the morning because I know that in the afternoon not a lot's going to happen in the afternoon. Let's be honest. I need to recharge, re-energize. I've used a lot of mental focus to keep that networking event going, keep the conversations going. And the same for my in-person events as well. So introversion can be around preferring that peace and quiet, and I love the peace and quiet. If we're recording this just after the summer holidays, I've loved having the kids at home, but I'm really looking forward to having my house to myself and just no one around, and no hustle, no bustle. So there's lots to being an introvert that people don't understand. They think it is just the fact that we're quieter. Sometimes we can come across as perhaps being aloof and disinterested, but actually, the way that I understand it is the fact that we're thinking of things. We're thinkers. We're reflective. We review what's going on. We don't just talk for the sake of it. Which more extroverted people, more confident, louder
Mhm.
people will just come in and go, "I'm here. Let's talk," and that's where they get their energy from.
I think
As an
that's a good
introvert.
point to make. I was a psychology lecturer. You won't know this, but I was a
Oh,
psychology
right.
lecturer in the original of my first career. So it's good to just say what the difference is between introversion and
Mm.
extroversion. And we're not necessarily talking about shyness, because shyness is actually something different. Um, but extroverts get energy from being around people. They find that they like to work in coffee shops, they like to go out and do lots of those kinds of things, they enjoy being around big groups. Introverts um get that replenish their energy from time alone. So that's not to say they can't go out and do things. They much likely, like that you just said about your networking events, they prefer smaller and more intimate gatherings. They're more likely to go for dinner with a couple of people rather than out to a bar to a whole group with a whole group of people. And you can also be an ambivert, so you can kind of have a bit of
Yeah.
best of both worlds. So you can, that you can end up not necessarily being one or the other. But I think it is important to just say that that is a real thing. It is
Yeah.
something that is around who we are and how we get our energy. That's the key to it. And we've got some great tips here for you in business, because in business, sometimes the extroverts get seen more because it suits them. Marketing and things maybe suits them a little bit more, or some of the traditional ways of doing it, let's say, because we can market in all different ways. But some of the traditional ways of doing it perhaps suit extroverts more. But there are definitely ways for those of us who are a bit more introverted, or who just know we need to go out and get that little bit more visibility, that we can do. So our first tip is around our social media essentials. What do you mean by the social media essentials?
So with this one, it's really going back to basics. So this social media is a huge topic, and we could talk about it, over a series of monthly podcasts. But I'm talking about the absolute essentials of your social media. So if you think around your bio, whether or not it's on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. So whichever platform or platforms that you are using, making sure that it's got your business name, your business links, your information in that bio. Because when you are joining Facebook groups, when you are commenting on other people's posts, all that sort of stuff, if as your name gets seen, people are going to look at your bio. And if you've not got a link to who you are and what you do and where they can find out more, it's a wasted opportunity. So that's the first thing. It's about making sure that your bio has the information about your business, and where people can, what you do in your business. So the fact that you make handmade jewelry, do you specialize in a particular type of handmade jewelry or a particular product or something like that? That makes you stand apart from other people as well. And then where can people find information about you? So that's the first thing I say about your bio, is making sure that information is there. Some people, I think, sometimes they're afraid to sort of mix the business and the personal stuff and things, when they're doing posts. But at least if you've got it in your information, then people can find that out from there. So that's the first thing. Second thing I think about social media essentials is you've got the banner above your name, the header image. Make sure that that is up to date, that's changed, whether or not it's changed per season, for a sale, for something new that you're launching, a new product range or something like that. So regularly change that profile picture, because anyone that follows you, particularly on Facebook, anyone that follows you, when you change that picture, they're going to get notified that you've changed that banner image. So again, it's about being visible in ways that you don't have to think, I've got to go out there and talk or do something. Just the fact that you're updating your profile keeps your profile fresh in people's heads. You're being visible, you're being seen. And when people are coming across you, because if you've got your keywords of what you do, how you help people, and they're coming across you as part of their searches, they're going to see the best things that you've got to offer. So those are the two things from a social media essentials bit. Obviously, I'm not going to go into posting and content and all that sort of stuff. But just, if you are introverted, you don't have to think about anything. It's about just changing that image, letting people know who you are, what you do, and where they can find out more information about you.
Hmm. And one of our other tips was around doing faceless reels or faceless content. And I think
Yes.
that can be a good thing, especially if you're just starting out. Sometimes people don't really want to share about themselves, or they don't feel comfortable with that. What How can they do that? How can they share?
Yeah, so faces reels are a great way for you to share the written word, and whether or not you're an introvert or whether or not you've got other content you want to share. And if you've probably all seen it where it's like a nice photo or even a static image behind it. Normally it's a photo where it's maybe a behind the scenes. You can do time lapse videos. You could do a day in the life, quick fire walkthroughs of something. As you're creating your items, you could be doing, um, images along the way so people can see the journey from start to finish of your products and your items. You could do an upload of loads of different, a montage of different photos of different all your products in that range, and put some music behind it and some words over the top of it. There are so many ways that if you don't want to show your face, which many people don't, or you're just starting out with reels or just starting out doing videos and that sort of stuff, you don't feel confident in talking to camera or anything like that. There are so, particularly for jewelry and product-based businesses, you've got all your products, and if you are making it yourself, you've got the whole journey that you can do some really lovely videos of how you created that one piece of jewelry from start to finish. And potential customers are going to want to see how that piece of jewelry, what they're buying into, and the steps that you take to do it. So that's what I mean by sort of the faceless real side of it.
I think that's a really good point. And I think sometimes as well, we can feel a little bit like, well, who wants to know about me? With all the people out there on the world in the world, who cares about me? But actually, I think what we need to remind people is that when people are buying handmade, particularly, there's a kind of a group of people and it's growing, which is great, who really do want to support individual artists, individual makers, support local, all of that. They're really interested in doing that. And if somebody wants to buy from a high street brand, they can buy from a high street brand. That's what they do. But that those high street brands are faceless. That's why they get um celebrities to endorse them and things, because they don't have the people behind them. But we are there behind that, and saying a little bit about what we're inspired by, the types of things that we go out and we do, can be really helpful, because it just means it's another point of connection. If somebody is buying something, it's like they're going to say, oh, I've got this piece of jewelry from a local maker who loves to do, I don't know, whatever it is that they love to do. And I think it is important. I think sometimes we discount some of those stories about ourselves and what we're interested in, and think, oh, no one's going to care about that. I think that's something on Instagram stories, it's quite useful to share. You won't, because they disappear within 24 hours. So it can be, you can
Exactly.
share like little
Yeah.
bits and pieces where you're out and about, or you're doing something. Like I've been sharing going for walks, and it was really interesting. I thought, oh, who cares about me going? Who cares about me going for walks? But I met somebody who I knew in real life who said, oh, I can always look out for your walks, and it inspires me to go on a walk myself. And I'm like, okay, there's something more going on behind this that I'm not even
Yeah.
aware of.
No, I think it's just, I think, in our heads subtly, I think when you've got people that are just sharing, like I say, their everyday life, maybe you're going, like I say, going for a walk, or you're at the beach and you've got a nice imagery around you, or a forest or something like that. It shows the person behind the business what they're into, what they're enjoying, what the steps of their journey are. And like you say, it creates more than just the piece of jewelry itself. People are then buying into you as that person and who you are, what you like to do. And it's like, yeah, like you say, I love going for a walk as well, and I love that type of jewelry, and suddenly they become invested in you and your business without you even thinking about it. I know someone who's a great resin artist, and they make upcycle furniture through resin. And she never really talks to camera. You see her face every now and again, but people are taking videos of her at market stalls or at events that she's going to, or things that she's just doing in her everyday life. And like you say, the creation of that artwork that she's putting together. And it's just amazing to see that journey of the steps that she goes through, and the fact that she's a real person doing real stuff that we all do in our life. And like you say, not a faceless brand that doesn't have that capability of doing a behind the scenes video like you can do.
I think that's so true. And I think it's just, I think with all of the stuff around AI and all of that, I feel like human connection is becoming even more important, and
Mhm.
us connecting with each other and finding similarities with each other. For me, it's worth doing. I remember speaking to somebody who was like, well, who's going to care about, me going out into the post box and putting something in the post box? And I was like, well,
We
do you
do.
know what?
We
Do you
do.
know
We're so
what?
nosy.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I think, I I know you're in England, I'm in Scotland, you know, similar places, but it's still, there's still a novelty for other people who are in different places to be like, oh, that's interesting. Edinburgh's interesting, or Manchester's interesting, or wherever, it's
Mm.
we forget, I think. We just
Yeah.
discount some of the things that are interesting and unique about us because they feel like they're just every day, they're boring.
We do, and I think sometimes it can be the smallest of things that resonate with someone who's then going to be a potential customer of yours. If you shared you walking on a beach and you've never shared anything like that before, they're like, yeah, that's my person, because they love putting their feet in the sand and the water coming. It just something really small can make that big difference to somebody, and somebody clicks and it's like, yeah, that's the person I want to go and get to know a bit better, or follow and see what they're up to, and have a look at their items and stuff like that.
Definitely. Okay, so on to our tip number 3. So we've talked about social media essentials, and we've talked a little bit about creating content that we're not, without
In the
a
face of.
faceless content. Yeah. What about on Google? What can we do to help be a bit more visible?
Yes, and this is something
Again,
that
we
I
could talk,
talk
all
about.
of these things,
Oh,
like you
yeah.
said, could be like whole courses, but let's just
Yeah. No, but I
we're
talk about
picking the
this
bits.
all the time. Yeah, when I'm mentoring people or in my community, I did a post the other day to say who's got their Google business profile, and like 3 or 4 people were like, "Oh no, I've not done that yet," and I could feel them hiding away from having to put the comment out there. But if you think about it, how Google is what the biggest website in the world. However many millions and billions of people are searching on Google all the time. And as a small business, as a handmade business, you are going to be able to set yourself apart from other people doing something similar to you if you can be found on Google. And it's free to set up. It takes a couple of minutes, to get a basic something set up. It's free and it's just a couple of minutes. And if you think about things that you search for, so you might search for, is there a X near me? Is there a jeweler near me? Is there a artist near me? Is there a plumber near? Everyone is searching for things that are near them. So to be found on Google, you need to have a Google business profile. So it's very simple. It's very easy. Just go to Google and put in how to create my Google business profile, and it takes a couple of minutes. That's gonna, if you want to put your home address or a studio address in, or you could just put a region in. And so therefore, when people are then searching for something in your area, you have the possibility of coming up. and being seen and being visible. You can add your office hours in there. You can add pictures of your products. You can ask past clients for reviews, and that's something that we all should be doing in our businesses. And we've spoken about this before, Anna. It's about, the importance of reviews in your business, whether or not that's Facebook reviews, Trustpilot or other reviews or other platforms that you might use, Etsy, that sort of stuff. And Google has the same. If you're searching for somebody on Google and they've got 5 stars underneath it, and you find something similar that's not got any stars underneath it, I'm going to look at the ones with 5 stars to begin with. So it's make it part of your customer journey, so that as they go through the process of buying and receiving the products from you, you send them something to say, it'd be great for you to leave a review. Here's all the links of where you can leave me a review, and start to get that built into your processes automatically. Because I think lots of us don't. I hate asking for reviews. I'm like, oh. So when I build it into my process, it just goes without me knowing. I don't have to think about it. So if you are one of those people, build it into your set automated processes of the sales journey, and do it that way. But yeah, you can put your reviews on there. When you're getting reviews, then you've then got that stuff, content you can share on your emails, on your socials, and it's on your website, and it's just going to build that credibility, that trust factor that's really important. So having that Google Business Review is free, it's easy. You can add loads of content in there. You can add special offers in there that just come from Google. So again, you'll know if it's come from a Google search as opposed to somewhere else. There's so much you can do on it, but it's also very basic if you want to just set up the basics of it.
I think it's really important, isn't it? That social proof. I think in the beginning of the internet, I remember everyone was just about buying from the big businesses that they already knew about, and they were worried about buying from someone they'd never heard of before. But I think that luckily those days have gone. But having reviews, I think that's the kind of one of the first things we do, isn't it? We find something, we go, oh, that's interesting. Oh, let's check out the reviews. And so Google, I also, as you said, Facebook is a good place to ask for people to give you reviews as well. And you only need a couple of sentences. They don't need to write, they don't need to write an essay or anything like that. But it can, and you don't need thousands of them either. Because in the past, I think you'd need to pay for something, pay for one of these review plugins and things, which I know you can still do, but with Google and Facebook, they're automatically there, aren't they? So
Yeah, and I think if you started to get reviews in, you get the notification that someone's left for your review, and you go back and reply and say how lovely it is, or you can refer to the piece of jewelry that they're referring to, or the conversations you've had, or something like that. Again, it's about making you stand aside from other people, bigger brands, and showing the person behind the business, and showing that personalization to your clients makes you stand apart.
definitely. Yeah, no, I think that's such a good way of being more visible, isn't it? Which is what we're
Yeah,
talking about. So, next one, just a small topic, email marketing.
I like these small topics. They're great, aren't they? So
I know, I know.
and I
What
think
can we
for
do?
me, so when I talk to people, I always say the 3 things that people should be doing are social media and whichever platform they want to go on, email marketing, and networking. We're going to come on to networking later, no doubt, because if not,
We
I will
will.
raise it at some point, because that's what I'm about. But email marketing, I think, is one of the big 3 that you should be doing in some way, and the reason for it is, if you think about social media, platforms go down, algorithms change all the time. Such a small amount of people can possibly see your content, but you have to put it on there. You can't necessarily be on all platforms consistently all the time. It's just impossible unless you've got a team of people or someone that's going to help you out. But and as a user myself, I have seen a post on a social media platform and thought I'll come back to that later on. And then you come back and you think about it, an hour later, and think, what platform did I find it on? Who was it that I saw it? What was it? What is it? Whereas with an email, it goes into the person's inbox, and yes, I might not get to it straight away, but it's saved in there for me to come back to it when I'm able to do it. And so email marketing is essential for that reason. Plus, as an introvert, quite a lot of introverts prefer the written word. And so they prefer writing and doing things behind the scenes. So actually being able to, again, similar to your social media content, share some behind the scenes stuff, share the journey of what what a product has to go through. Share your wins, give some hints and tips and ideas. You can then do sales email with your preview or your launch, your new launches, and there's so much you can do with email marketing. And they will stay in that person's inbox until they're ready to read it, and they can come back again and again and again and easily find the content that they need. So this is why I think email is really important. And similarly, once you've got that person's email address, it's yours. You don't have to think about a platform disappearing or removing your profile, which happens. I hear about it all the time, which I'm sure you do as well. My profile's been hacked, my account's been closed, and suddenly you've lost all the followers that you've had. Whereas on email, that list is yours. If something happens, you can download the list and start up on a new platform should you need it. So this is why I think email marketing has to be someone that people take seriously. And if you haven't been doing, please make sure you do that. And it could be as simple as maybe I did, the client the other week, I was like, just go through everyone that has bought from you and start your email list that way and reintroduce yourself and ask them if they're happy to receive further emails from yourself, and then get them onto a normal email list from there. So, it's about maintaining that that know, like, trust factor. And this is why it's really
Definitely.
important.
And I think as well, we need to remember that those people who have signed up to our email list have done so because they're interested in what we do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know people who follow us on socials are interested as well. But I think it's like they're kind of showing a real interest in us if they've signed up. And so it's about communicating with that group of people who have already said, oh yeah, I want to know more about what you do. So I think sometimes everyone, well, not just introverts, but everyone feels like, oh well, what if I'm just bothering people, what if I'm just annoying people?
They just won't open the email. If it's not a right time, a convenient time for them to not open that email, they won't open it until it is a convenient time to open it. But that email is still there for them to see.
Exactly, that's it. And if they've changed their mind, if they're no longer interested, they can unsubscribe. They have those options. And just, you worrying about, oh, should I email? How many times should I email? And all of that. Is it too much? Mostly, most people are not emailing enough, basically.
Yeah.
And one thing I also like to say about email is that you don't need to write a lot. In fact, don't write a lot. You really want one message and one call to action, one button that says, do this. This is what I want you to do next. It's like,
I
go
get
to the
bored when it's
website.
a whole essay. It's like, oh no, I've
People
read
won't
about the
read
first
it.
line and the last line. What's the call to action at the end that you want me to do? And what's the intro bit? I'm not interested in the blurb in the middle. I get bored.
Exactly. I think we can feel like it has to be like a newsletter. And that idea of newsletter has become a bit of a thing, but actually we don't want to read essays. We don't have the attention span for it, for one thing. So what we want to do is it's just find a way, maybe pick a social media post that's done well and expand on it a little bit. Just have the same kind of content in there. You can then also repurpose it for a blog, which we'll get on to talking about again in a second as well. So I think it's about remembering that these are people who are interested in you. They've signed up on purpose, so contact them. They want to hear from you, and they want to support you. And so by emailing them not constantly but regularly,
Consistently.
outside of, you might have launch times for like particular collections for jewelry, and you'll be emailing a little bit more often then, or you should be, but still contacting, and just updating people, reminding them about what you have is really important, all the time, all year through. So
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's also, what I do and what a recent client has done is made that email list even more important by sort of saying, my new season's launch will actually be launching earlier to my email list. So she's been growing her email list that way. the people on the email list get something ahead of time. Some of the things are limited time, limited number, all that sort of stuff. So actually it creates that sort of vibe of being part of your brand and that community as well, when they're getting something for being on that list. So it's about just, like you say, doing different things to keep them involved with the brand, showcase your personality, a little bit more about behind the scenes as well. So it doesn't need to be, again, doesn't need to be businessy all the time. It could be just a couple of pictures of what you've been up to over the last couple of weeks if you've been on a holiday, or or you're doing a bit of a shopping trip, or something like that. So it could be anything. It doesn't need, like you say, it doesn't need to be 10,000 word essays or anything like that. It could just be a couple of sentences, quick fire, and here's where you can find out more information about it.
Yes, and I think this is another thing to automate. So make sure you've got how to sign up to your email list. Don't call it email list, call it something exciting like VIP club or something, or don't say sign up to my newsletter, because that doesn't sound very enticing. So, but also you can have a pop-up that comes up on your website after a certain amount of time when somebody is on there. So it is worth spending the time to kind of do those automations, because then once that's done, it's a kind of a set and forget type of thing, isn't it? So we can move on from it, but it's giving you that visibility. Those people who are interested, they can follow up with you, and then you can kind of keep them informed and keep them moving. So
Yeah, but I think it's like we said the word consistently quite a few times throughout this. It's something that I have to work on constantly and consistently as well. Everyone does. But I think, don't think that, like you said before, you don't have to email every day. If what you can do consistently is to email once a week, once every other week, once a month, whatever it is, start with that and hold yourself accountable to doing that, and let everyone know that's when you will be emailing them, and just make sure that you do. If then you can start to do it a little bit more often, then do it more often. But set aside, and again, I did this with a client the other week. I was just like, she was procrastinating about her email because she's very, very particular about what she wanted it to be. I said, just set yourself an hour and do whatever you can do in that hour. Otherwise, it would have taken her the whole day to write an email. I was like, just give yourself an hour, write the email, schedule it, move on. You will feel better, the email will go out, and she made sales from it, from doing it. Whereas if she had not thought about it, she maybe not have even got the email out. She would have, put it off and put it off. So give yourself some set time if you're worried about it, to just get the stuff done and move on. And you'll get into a rhythm that way. Sometimes it's better to work whether it's social media content, writing a blog, doing your emails. Give yourself maybe half a day to do all that sort of stuff, so you get yourself in the zone. Everything's done and dusted, and then the rest of the week, the rest of the month, you don't have to think about it ever again until the next month. It's done and dusted.
I think that's a really good point. And I don't know if you've heard of this thing, again, it's another psychology thing, but it's like context switching. So the more we kind of switch between different types of tasks, the harder it is for us to kind of come back into focus. And that's why it can be really good to have a half day where you're just I'm just going to write my emails for this month, or I'm just going to work on my social media and my emails, or something, all in one go, the type of content together. And then in the afternoon, I'm going to do my making, and if we try and do a bit of this and then a bit of that and a bit of this and a bit of that, it's exhausting, for one thing.
Yeah.
um,
I end up not doing anything either. It's like, well, by the time I've started doing something, it's time for me to go off and do something else. So time blocking for me in like half hour or an hour segments don't work. I have to do it in like half day blocks, really.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm completely with you there. I think if we can, it gives me all the time blocking, all that gives me the ick a bit. I don't like it in my calendar where my whole week is just. Some people
It
love it.
looks really busy as
I
well. It looks
can't.
really busy. I'm like, oh my goodness me, I've got so much to do this week. Whereas if you've just got like, half day blocks, yes, you've got the same amount of work to do, but it doesn't look like that in your head either.
I think it is about just finding the right way for you,
Yeah.
really. Just to how does it work for you? Some people love all of that, like growth specifics and ticking things off. But I'm with you. I'm much more of like, this half day is for this. and then, I can kind of,
Mhm.
I've got that flexibility within that time. That's me, but definitely. Well, moving on from email marketing to blogging.
Yes, we've touched on that before, haven't we?
Did
In
a little bit,
stuff,
yeah.
and I think things like social media content, email marketing, and blogging, they can all help each other. You don't have to think about it too much. I think blogging, if you're an introvert or whether or not you're not an introvert either, is great because once it's on your website, it's there, or any other people, if you're doing a guest blog on somebody else's website, that's going to be featured and on there and available for Google and other places to pick up forever while that website is live. So it's a great way of having content that's there and will be picked up and seen for years to come. But also for, for your audience and jewelry makers and stuff like that, just that the fact they can showcase their experience, they can showcase how the steps they need to go through, they can talk about maybe new gemstones, obviously coming into different horoscopes and all that sort, all that sort of stuff, different gemstones, different ways of working. If there's a new way of creating something that they're now going to learn in their business, they can talk about it. If they're an expert in a type of jewelry making or a type of craft work or something like that, they can share their knowledge, share their expertise. And again, it's different content that they can then share on their social media, in their emails, on their website. It builds up that trust factor, that credibility, the fact that they know what they're talking about. So again, getting back to their customers and potential customers, if they can share and showcase and tell people what they do and how they do it, and they've got words and images and information to back that up on their website from a blog and then create posts and emails off that, you're going to set yourself apart from someone who's just selling ready-made, items that are bought in from all across the world. In my head, anyway.
No, it's absolutely true. And I think the other thing with us as makers is sometimes people don't necessarily know kind of, what goes into
Mm.
making. Just like I don't know what goes into plumbing or something like that. I just, yeah, I know what I know. And I think we can discount a little bit some of our training, some of the things that we can do, all of the practice that we've got. And it can help educate our customers in some ways about why does something cost what it costs.
Mm.
If it takes a certain amount of time or we need a certain amount of expertise to be able to set a gemstone or whatever that might be. I think blogging can be a place where we can share a little bit more about that, like you said, about expertise, the kinds of things that people might be Googling or searching, are great things to write blog posts about because then you're going to show up in the search engine as well. But
Yeah.
I think
What your
sometimes it's
customers
your
ask you as
emails.
well. Sorry.
Good one. No, 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 go for it. Yeah. Yeah, frequently asked questions like, what are people asking you? What's not clear for them? Obviously, we want to make that really clear on your website, but you could also write a blog post.
Customers like to be told as well. So it could be as clear as day on your website. Customers are still not going to find it, or they like to be told it in a different way. Different people pick up on different things in different ways. I think if you've got frequently asked questions that you're always asked about a particular way of making something, or how does something work, or how how strong is a particular metal, or whatever it might be in in jewelry making, then those are the types of things that you want to blog about, because that's probably what people are going to be googling as well and searching for. And if you can come up, again, written word without you actually doing anything, then happy days.
Yes, that's a good point. I think what you said is with a social media post, it's often it's there and it's immediate, but and then it's kind of it's usefulness has gone a little bit. I mean, it's still there and it's good, but people are going to see it more in the moment. Whereas with
Mm.
things like on our website or our blog, or like you said, the email in the inbox, that's going to last a little bit longer. So it means that more people are likely over a lifetime, over a period of years, are going to more likely to see it than that individual social media post. That's not to say don't do the social media posts.
Yeah.
It's a balance, isn't it? It's about all of these different things. And I think as well,
Yeah.
sometimes you do an email and that can become a blog post.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah,
just
because so
use
you
that
get going and
content.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. You get excited and get in the moment, and like you say, content creation takes over. You're like, "Oh, this is quite a long email now. Maybe I should, change it into a blog post."
Yeah. Or just, make it an email and a blog post. It can be both.
Exactly,
There's
swap
nothing
it
to
around.
say there.
Write, yeah, write the blog, and then pick out certain elements of the blog, and you've got loads of social media content and loads of email content from one space.
Absolutely. No, I love that. So we're coming on to our final thing, which is your particular specialism, which is around networking. And I
Yes.
think for introverts, networking can be one of those things where it's like, okay, I can do all of those other things, but don't make me walk into a room of strangers.
I still feel like that now. I'm going to a different event in a couple of weeks' time that I don't know who's going to be there. It's someone's event that I've never been to one of their events. I know them, but I've never been to one of their events before. So, I walk the walk on this one as well, even though I host my own, and I think that obviously helps me because I completely still get why people don't go networking, don't like networking, or have a bad experience and never go again. But networking is, I say, this is why it's one of my big three. It's the thing that I focus on most with obviously the Female Business Network and what I'm most known for. I think it's one of the big three things that we need to focus in terms of visibility, interaction, engagement, having great conversations. But I think with networking, if you are new, you're scared, you're an introvert, there are different ways that you can network. Choose a small group to begin with. Don't think that you need to go to a networking event that's got 50 people in, for instance, and they are there, and they are great if that's what you want. But you can have some great conversations in a small group of 4 or 5 people. And actually, when you go to a big networking event, if you are on big tables together, you're probably only talking to 4 or 5 people on your table anyway. You're not talking to the 45 other people in the room generally. So actually choose your events wisely. If you prefer small groups, go to a small group networking. You're going to have great conversations. You're going to be able to build those relationships even more. Everyone is going to have an opportunity to talk, to ask questions to you, to ask for help, and just to build those connections. And actually, if you think about it, if there's 5 people in that networking meeting, whether or not it's online or in person, each of those 5 people are going to probably know a couple of hundred people. And because they've had a more in depth conversation with you, they know more about you and your business and what you do to be able to then talk about you to other people. Whereas if you go to an event and it's, like speed networking, which can be great fun, I've done those before, but actually you don't really know the person to be able to recommend or suggest them to anyone else that you know. Whereas a small event, you can do that. So choose events wisely, choose events that work for you, whether or not that's in person. Also online. Online can be great, online networking. So, yes, it's nice to get out of the house sometimes and get away from making and all that sort of stuff. But if you are time poor, if you really don't like to go to in person stuff, or you can't get to in person stuff, maybe because you live miles away from the nearest one that's good for you and you can't get there, then online networking is brilliant. And with the Female Business Network, that's what I'm part of. The big thing that I do is online networking. I've met people from across the whole world. We met online. So you can still build your business and your audience and grow and be more confident through online networking. So it's really important just to, again, same factor, choose the right online networking groups for you. And people go networking for all different reasons. You don't have to go networking to just sell, and that should probably be the last thing that you go networking for. For some people, particularly as a maker, you might not necessarily have time to have any more clients or commissions or anything like that. But actually, just getting out of the house and getting away from your work for an hour or so, or going out having some fun, going out and meeting people in the same sort of business, or people that work from home. Different people want different things from networking, and it's about choosing that right group for you, depending on what you want and need at that time.
I think that's such a good point. And I think sometimes I've been to a few where I've felt like the people that you're talking to, They're only interested in selling, like you were just saying. And I think it is good to go in knowing that you have a business and that you are there to promote it, absolutely. But go in with a kind of more of curiosity, like a collaborative edge. Like, I want to know a bit more about you. How
Mhm.
can I help you? Or how could maybe we could work together to collaborate on a project? Maybe we could share our audience in some way, or we could create something together. So I think sometimes there's a I don't know what it's quite is, but you can get a feeling of somebody who's there to give you their elevator pitch, and that's all they're there for, and they've just almost blank. They're not taking
They've
anything
done their
in.
pitch and then they move on because they need to go and do it to another 30 people.
Yeah, and I absolutely, you're going there because you're representing your business. But I think if we could go there with that curiosity of, can I meet some new people? Can I collaborate? Who can who can I connect with other people? Because when we're doing that, people are going to do that back for us. So
Yeah.
I think that's important when we're thinking about going networking. And I like the idea, I remember we were talking about this before around, you know, sometimes you just have to set yourself like a tiny goal. I'm just going to talk to one
Yeah, like a
person.
challenge. Yeah, exactly. So, this is what I do because again, going into even as a networking host, I don't like walking into a room and going, oh my God, I don't know all these people. But I also know how brilliant networking, I've built my business through networking, so I know how great it is. So if you are scared or you are a little bit daunted or anything like that, two things you can do. One thing, take a buddy with you, but make that might ease the fact of maybe walking into the room in those first couple of minutes. Um, but don't spend the whole event just chatting to your friend because you may as well just gone to the coffee shop and done that if that's what you're going to be doing. But it can
Yeah, you can
definitely,
set yourself the challenge to then go off and meet other people and
yeah,
maybe
it
later
helps.
on introduce people. But I think sometimes you're right, you kind of just need just somebody else to be with you. Yeah.
Yeah, just to walk in so you're not completely on your own. And then I just set myself a challenge to go, okay, Janine, from this event, just go and talk to one, two, three people that you've never spoken to before. There might be 50 people here, there might be 30 people there. You don't need to go and talk to all 30 people, but just go and talk to one person that you have no idea who they are. They might not know who you are, and just have a conversation, even if it's just 5 minutes. Just start with that, and then what happens is if you're having, like you say, that great conversation with them, if they've been there before and they know lots of people, they might go, "Oh, you need to go and come and speak to Janine. Janine's got this, whatever it is, whatever it might be." So, for you, for your audience as makers and jewelry makers, if you start talking to somebody and you talk about, a piece of jewelry you're making or the style of jewelry you make, then I go, I don't know, for example, if it's like a ring, so and so is getting married, or so and so is looking for something like that, or their mum was, if it's a necklace, or it's Mother's Day coming up, or whatever it might be, and they might then naturally introduce people to you without you having to do it. But yeah, just give yourself that challenge of just saying, I'm just going to go and talk to two people that I don't know. That's all I'm going to do. If I've done that, I don't care about the other 28 people in the room for today. I'm just going to
Yeah.
focus in on having a great conversation and learning more about those two people. And hopefully they'll then ask me the questions back so they can find out more about me as well.
I think that's such a great tip because like you say, it can just feel a little bit overwhelming. But if we can set ourselves that challenge and then maybe have a little reward afterwards of like, if you do that thing, then
Yeah.
can go and get that coffee or go and do whatever it is that or buy that book or something. Just a little treat sometimes.
Yeah.
You need to
We
manage
need to give
yourself.
ourselves rewards. Yeah, exactly. We need to give ourselves the rewards as of recognizing a job well done when we're doing things that are slightly scary or different or out of our comfort zone, whatever they may be. And that might be the case with social media. So say, for example, you
Yeah.
want to go and do some videos and you've been doing the behind the scenes stuff. You think, "You know what? I'm going to go face the camera today." You do it. Give yourself a reward for doing that and pushing your boundaries and pushing your comfort zone, and learning something that's different for you and challenging for you. And the same for networking as well, 100%.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Janine. That was really, really helpful. You shared lots of very, very valuable tips. Like we said at the beginning, you don't have to do all of them right now. Pick maybe two
No.
things from that list and just kind of go in on those, and then you can always come back to this episode once you feel like you've like nailed those things. But Janine, where can people find out more about you? We'll put your details in the show notes, but like where can they find out more to follow you and all the good stuff?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it. I say this is a topic I could talk about all day.
Me too.
But if you do want to find out more, you can find me at Female Business Network on Instagram and Facebook, or on LinkedIn. I'm Janine Friston.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for that. A really, really great conversation.
No,
I'm
thank
sure
you. It's
lots of
been
people are going to
lovely.
get